In previous videos, I've talked pretty broadly about the formation of clay and different types of clay and sedimentation. In this lecture, I'd like to talk a little bit more specifically about where you could find clay in our region. Here in Bellingham, in this picture, you can see looking east, we have the Cascade Range dominated by Mount Baker in this image. If you look to the west, we have the Olympic Range on the Olympic Peninsula, and for both of these mountain ranges, we are within the drainage basin of those mountains. As such, clays formed from those mountains would ultimately be deposited in the Puget Lowlands where we are. We are in an active geologic region with many forces visibly at work. Mount Baker and Mount Rainier, like Mount St. Helens, are active volcanoes. Our region is subject to earthquakes and tsunamis. This is all related to the fact that we are in a subduction zone, where an oceanic plate is being overridden by a continental plate. Important to our purposes, volcanoes mean that we have a local source of igneous rock, which is, of course, is the parent rock for clay. Our region was scraped and reshaped by advancing glaciers over tens of thousands of years. At points, Bellingham would have been under almost a mile of ice. In an unglaciated landscape, you could anticipate finding lots of built-up sediments divided into identifiable strata. But ours was plowed up as recently as 10,000 years ago. During the advance and retreat of these glaciers, they created moraines as well as glacial melt rivers and lakes where some sorting did occur. You can see in this image that glacier has a big old trough of debris or till kind of surrounding its edge, and then you have a river flowing out from that melting. After the glaciers have retreated and their crushing mass has been lifted from the land, the whole region rebounded or uplifted. This was significant enough that clay deposits made on the bottoms of glacial melt lakes were now uplifted as dry land. The vast majority of the clay found in the Puget Lowlands would be a secondary or common clay. These gray-green deposits are known as the Lawton clay and are laid down in wide flat layers, suggesting they settled out of a large body of slow-moving water, or slow-moving or stagnant water. As these glaciers receded, they blocked the drainage to the ocean, creating a number of large freshwater lakes in the Puget Lowlands. The meltwater flowing into these lakes brought sediments. Undisturbed by tides or currents, these glacial lakes allowed the material to settle into distinct layers. With post-glacial rebound, these deposits are often exposed, and you can find examples right here in Bellingham Bay, San Juan Islands, and all the way to Seattle and Tacoma. The image on the left is of a bluff in the south side of San Juan Island, and the image on the right is from a park in Seattle. And you can see like kind of distinctly stratified layers of clay and silt and sand in there. Let's get even more local and look at the example of the Nooksack River. We can trace the source of the North Fork of the Nooksack to the Glacial Cirque on the north side of Mount Shukshan. You can see the Glacial Cirque is kind of a bowl-like shape at the top of the mountain. As this bowl of ice melts, it brings erosional debris plucked from the mountaintop. At higher elevations, the river transports its material over waterfalls and through a narrow, fast-moving channel. As the North Fork leaves the mountains and joins the Middle and South Forks, the channel widens and large gravel and sand bars appear. Around Deming, The river cuts through thick layers of glacial deposits, including a place called Clay Banks, where a landslide in 2014 was documented showing exposures of distinct gray-green clay. These glacial clays are picked up and transported with the freshly eroded material. As the river slows and meanders north through Ferndale, the river has a milky, muddy appearance. In this shifting floodplain, the river has left deposits along the way, including Brennan Pond, site of a former brick factory, before ultimately emptying out into Bellingham Bay. Near the mouth of the river is Locust Beach, another exposed bluff of easily accessible Lawton clay deposits.